2022, Ronald M. Remendino and Lisa Stoker, to the meeting of October 8th, no earlier than 6:30 p.m.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Matters continue to October 8th. Next, we need to open a hearing, PB 2019-34, Martin D. Rich, care of Timothy Brady, PLS and PE representative, seeks approval of a 7-lot, 1 with a panhandle definitive subdivision pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, 81K-GG, and 325-18Q and 400 of the Code of the Town of Harwich for property located at 0 Deacon Folly Road, map 46, parcel F5, within the RL zoning district. No new or additional roads are proposed. It's my understanding that there has been a request that that be continued. Do I have a motion?
I move to continue the public hearing for PB 2019-34, Martin D. Rich, care of Timothy Brady, PLS and PE representative, to September 24th, 2019, no earlier than 6:30 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done. And lastly, of these housekeeping details, we have PB 2019-36. We'll open the public hearing. Deerfield Nominee Trust, William Marsh, trustee as owner, seeks approval of a site plan review special permit with waivers for new construction of a 5,845 square foot metal structure for industrial use. Property is located at 4 Deerfield Road, map 45, parcel T1-7 in the IL zoning district. Application is pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, 325, 51, and 55. Do I have a motion to continue?
Move to continue PB 2019-36, Deerfield Nominee Trust, William Marsh, trustee as owner, to September 24th, 2019, no earlier than 6:30 p.m.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
Please keep all your plans. Perfect timing.
And the first matter on our agenda that we're now going to actually hear a case, or continue a case, PB 2019-30, First Crush Winery, Cape Cod LLC, applicant Frank D. and Diane M. Puzio owners, and we heard some of this a couple weeks ago, and it was continued to this date from August 27th. So is there somebody here representing First Crush? Before you begin, in the interim, the board has heard from the police department via email. On August 28th, 19, Deputy Chief Kevin Considine says, quote, "The PD has no issues with parking at this location. I reviewed history at this location as well, and we have had no parking complaints." So also by email from the fire department, Deputy Chief LeBlanc, on August 28th, the fire department has no concerns regarding the parking at First Crush, which I think we always thought anyway, but now we have it in writing. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Well, nothing really to add from our 2-week ago meeting with you folks. And we're in application for approval for a change in zoning to allow us to have parking spaces, 7 parking spaces for the public to come visit us at that site for retail purposes.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, it's not a change in zoning, it's just a change in the site plan.
Okay,
Basically show what is existing on the ground and also the use special permit for the retail sale of the
Okay.
winery.
anybody have any questions on the board?
None.
Comments? Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who has any questions or comments about First Crush Winery, Cape Cod LLC. All right, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed.
So I move to,
Just a reminder that there are only 5 board members eligible to vote, all but Alan.
no,
So, all but Bill, excuse me. I knew it was one of you. So it does need to be a unanimous vote
Okay,
so,
go ahead, ma'am.
in order to grant it.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the following findings of fact. 1, the property is located within the IL zoning district. 2, the use as developed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. 3, the specific site is an appropriate location for such a use. 4, the site went through previous site plan reviews. 5, there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. And 6, adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation of the proposed use, including appropriate sewage treatment.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Go ahead.
So I move to approve with conditions, case number PB 2019-30 for First Crush Winery, Cape Cod LLC for a use special permit for retail sales within an industrial IL zoning district pursuant to section 325-13, section 4.32A, and section 325-14N of the Code of the Town of Harwich, for property located at 527 Building C, Main Street, map 39, parcels K6-16, -17, and -18, based on the aforementioned findings of fact and the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich. The following condition is imposed. A, the septic system is not designed for food service and no food is to be prepared on site. B, any changes to the use may require further planning board review. And C, this decision shall be recorded at the Barnstable Registry of Deeds.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we need waivers?
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the following waivers pursuant to section 400 as requested based on the facts presented by the applicant. 1, 2 sets of drainage calculations. 2, legend of all symbols shown on the plan. 3, names and addresses of owners of record shown on the plan. 4, names, deed, and plan references of all direct abutters shown on the plan. 5, gross area of wetlands and uplands for the total parcel in square feet, acres, and percentages shown on the plan. 6, marked areas subject to Wetlands Protection Act shown on the plan. 7, lighting. 8, easements. 9, freestanding signs. 10, traffic circulation arrows. 11, specifications, details, cross-sections for lighting, curbing, fencing, retaining walls, parking, and wheel stops. 12, landscaping plan, and 13, building plan.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote to adopt proposed findings. Go ahead.
So I move that we adopt the following findings of fact. 1, the property is located within the IL zoning district. 2, the additional parking spaces will not increase lot coverage. 3, a small area of pavement will be removed. 4, the waivers requested do not substantially derogate from the purpose and intent of the bylaw.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And finally, vote on the site plan review special permit.
So, I move that we approve with conditions, case number PB 2019-30 for First Crush Winery, Cape Cod LLC, for a site plan review special permit with waivers to add 9 additional parking spaces for retail sales areas for property located at 527 Building C, Main Street, map 39, parcels K6-16, -17, -18, in the IL zoning district. The application is pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, section 325-51M and 55. The decision is based on the aforementioned findings of fact and the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich and the following conditions. A, all signage shall comply with the sign code and building department requirements. B, this decision shall be recorded at the Barnstable Registry of Deeds. C, conformance with all review procedure requirements outlined pursuant to section 400-18.g, inspection, certificate of completion, and as-built plans of the code of the town of Harwich shall be met.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Tell me what about the registry of deeds? Do we need to do anything with that?
Yes, you do. What will happen is we will draft the decision, more than likely this week. The chair will sign it. From the date that that is submitted to the town clerk, there is a 20-day appeal period. Once that appeal period has expired, and provided there's no appeals, you need to go to the town clerk's office to get a certified copy saying that no appeal was taken, and then record that at the registry of deeds. And you'll get a letter explaining that.
Very good. Thank you for your-
Good luck.
Thank you all.
A little bit of a drag to get it all done, but it's done now.
We did it.
Okay. Next matter is PB 2019-33, Brian A. Languler, trustee et al.
You have to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
I will. Just waiting for my brother.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Evening. Seek approval of a site plan review special permit with waivers pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich, 325-55, for the proposed storage of boats, and a use special permit pursuant to 325-13, 432A, and 325-51 for a restaurant fast food takeout mobile food truck at property located at 809 Route 28, map 24, parcel W6-1 in the C-H-1 zoning district. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney William Kroll from Harwich Port, here this evening representing the petitioner, who is Brian Langelier, one of the trustees of the trust that owns the subject property. This property is adjacent to a lot that Mr. Langelier also owns, and he and I were here before this board several months ago, and it's undergone extensive renovations, looks a lot better. The board voted unanimously, if I recall correctly, to approve that special permit. I think he's done an excellent job, and the neighbors were happy at that hearing with the renovations. This lot in question is located immediately adjacent to that building lot, to the west of it, on the south side of Route 28. And he's seeking to have two relatively passive uses of the property. So he submitted a request for site plan review special permit for boat and boat trailer storage, which is allowed in the CH1 district as of right. So he's requesting approval of that site plan, and then also on the same lot, a use special permit for restaurant fast food takeout in the form of a mobile food truck, not an actual stationary restaurant, a mobile food truck, as you may have seen around town the last few years. So he's seeking a special permit for that. As far as the site plan review, when a use is allowed as of right, which it is in that zone for boat storage, the bylaw says that you have to grant the permission, the approval, but can impose conditions to make sure that the use does not adversely, it basically does not adversely affect the neighborhood, and doesn't present any serious traffic or safety concerns. And I would note, as noted in the staff report, that police and fire have no concerns with this application. It's on Route 28 in the commercial district. Of course, if the town planner or engineering department want any conditions, Mr. Langelier would certainly be willing to cooperate and work with them in that regard, and this board. As far as the fast food truck. That's a special use, or a use special permit from this board. Again, a finding that it would not adversely impact the traffic flow and safety, and would be compatible with the surrounding land uses. That's pursuant to 325, Section 17O, that's referred to in the table of uses. And the petitioner would submit that the proposed use would not adversely affect the neighborhood, that the site is an appropriate location for the use, in that it's in a CH1 commercial zone. There would be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians created. He's showing on the plan 7 parking spaces for that food truck that would be centrally located on an asphalt apron in the middle of the area where the, that would be surrounded by the boat storage, by the boats when they're in storage. By the way, the boat storage would probably begin, whatever conditions the board wants to impose, mid to late September and end in June. And the food truck would be, in your discretion, limited to the summer months. But it would be a way to generate income for the property. So I think he's provided adequate and appropriate facilities for the proper operation of the food truck. Board of Health has indicated that they don't want tables used or on the site, and he's agreeable to that, and whatever other concerns the Board of Health has. So again, he's willing to work with this board and the Board of Health to meet any concerns in the engineering department. If we need to tweak the plan a little bit here and there to accommodate the engineering department, is certainly willing to do so, but would like to, if possible, come out with approvals this evening, especially the boat storage, because that needs to get underway at this time of year. Thank you.
Okay. Members of the board, anybody have a question?
Could
Go ahead.
could
Sorry.
I ask for Charlene's staff report first?
Of course,
Thanks.
I should have.
You'll get used to it. As indicated, several waivers have been requested per letter from All Cape Septic and Survey regarding parking applicability. I'm not going to go through them detailed. Dumpster location and landscaping requirements. Comments from other boards and committees. The Health Department. The project has been reviewed by the Health Department. The proposal includes locating a mobile food truck on the site with convenience-type seating. There's no objection from the Health Department regarding the proposal. However, the following conditions are recommended. 1, the mobile food truck must obtain a permit from the Health Department prior to operation. 2, the mobile food truck must return to its base of daily operation for trash removal, potable water, wastewater discharge, food storage, and general cleaning. 3, water from the on-site well shall not be used for the food truck operation or connected to the food truck. 4, there shall be no table service provided to customers, takeout food only. 5, if temporary restrooms are provided, otherwise known as porta potties, portable hand washing stations must also be provided. As mentioned, fire and police, as well as highway, building, and conservation have no concerns. We did receive late today comments from the town engineer. The accessible parking shown shall be a van accessible space, the size of which shall be 11 feet wide with a 5-foot wide adjacent access aisle in accordance with the Architectural Access Board and the American Disabilities Regulations. The parking space shall be appropriately marked and include signage. Second, it is not clear how stormwater runoff is proposed to be managed for the site. Stormwater calculations have not been provided. I would recommend that if the board was willing to move forward this evening, that requirement actually be waived. With it being gravel, there's really probably no need, and it's a fairly flat parcel. The limits of Peastone should be clearly defined on the site plan is a proposed paved apron proposed to be maintained. And actually, I have a follow-up question in regard to that. I thought I heard in the presentation, and once we go through, you can address it, that the area for the food truck is going to be paved in its entirety? Or did I misunderstand that? And you can address that after. Fourth bullet, Howard, parking spaces for both uses proposed to be delineated. Bullet 5, parking area dimensions should be provided on the boat storage plan. What are the size restrictions of boat storage for each of the different size boat storage spaces, boat storage parking spaces provided? Bullet 6, the original submitted plans indicated a table area. The revised plan do not include a table area. Is a table area intended to be included? It should be noted that outdoor seating may require additional parking. Accessibility should be accommodated per both AAB and ADA requirements and standards if table area is included. Pavement construction details are recommended to be provided. Next bullet, what is the proposed surface treatment for areas disturbed by construction outside of the proposed parking limits? Vehicular protection of the proposed mobile food truck is recommended. And finally, are any utility service connections required for the mobile food truck? The plan does not appear to show any. With regard to my comments, the boat storage use is allowable in the CH1 zoning district by right. The food mobile truck is allowable in the CH1 zoning district through the special permit process. 3, a small portion of the property at the rear of the lot is located within the RM zoning district. Both proposed uses are located outside the RM district. No exterior lighting is proposed. 5, a condition regarding the installation of a fence, perhaps split rail along that, along the zoning boundary line would be appropriate. 6, a condition regarding disposal of trash would be appropriate. 7, any signage will require a sign permit from the building department. 8, the board may wish to restrict or condition the food truck. Some examples that have been used, particularly in the past, condition the operation between June 15, December 15, condition the specific time of day, i.e. serving lunch, or if it's doing breakfast through lunch, what have you. C, any increases in the need for additional on-site parking shall require the applicant to return to the planning board for further review and approval. And at this time, the waivers that have been requested do appear to be reasonable.
Okay. Members of the board, anybody have any questions or comments? Go.
So I had a question with the comment from the health department said no table service. Did they mean no serving at a table, or did they mean no picnic tables at all?
I took it to mean no picnic tables.
Okay.
On the other hand, the last time we had one of these was across from Saquatucket, and there were 2 picnic tables there.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
The says here from Health, the proposal includes locating a mobile food truck on the site with convenience-type seating.
So I think
That's
there
the
can
picnic
be
table.
picnic tables.
The table service would be someone
Waitstaff.
bring it.
Right.
bring it outside.
moving the food from.
Yes.
And that's how I took it too, so,
All
so
right,
that's,
thank you, Mr. Peterson, for pointing that out. So there'll be no roller skating, A&W
no
type
bell.
waitresses.
Now you're dating yourself.
Yes.
You'll take it from the truck and go sit at the picnic table.
Yeah. That's why I raised it. Okay, anybody else on the board, any questions? Go ahead.
How about trash containers?
I believe it'll be the responsibility of
Yeah.
the actual, so basically, I'd be subletting this spot out to a local restaurant that would have a food truck to put there. Someone actually approached me about this is why I'm doing this. They'd be responsible to do trash removal at the end of the day when they remove the truck.
And hours of operation.
Whatever's reasonable.
Go ahead, Mayor.
So I guess that was my question too. Do you have, if you have a tenant already, have they, are they okay with the September 15th? or the June 15th to September 15th,
That-
missing
that-
Memorial Day weekend, have they said lunch, dinner?
I think we'd probably like to squeeze Memorial Day weekend in there, through at least Labor Day. The biggest thing, is basically being able to get the boats in and out of there for the summertime. So I would assume by typically around Memorial Day weekend, most boats would be in the water at that point. Thus leaving the ability to get the food truck in there for the summertime months.
So if I
Go
may,
ahead, sure.
through you to Charlene,
Yes.
how's it gonna work if he's still got boats on? Can he operate both technically as an overlap, or no?
That's entirely up to you guys, quite honestly. If you feel that there's a way to accommodate that, if the front, let me move to the
I
boat.
don't see a conflict.
If the front area is no longer containing boats, then, if there's still boats out back, it's entirely up to you. And there may be
May,
a
Mr.
straggling
Chairman?
boat that's actually there all the time, if somebody can't get it into the water in time.
Mr. Kroll?
There's 3 plans there, and one of them shows that the boat storage would be on the perimeter of the property. And then the sheet 2 shows you the food truck and the parking for the food truck being centrally located. I don't see a conflict between the two. You come in and you park in one of 7 spaces for the food truck. The boats would be stationary around the perimeter of the lot.
So my only concern was if you're trying to get boats out, it'd be in the same driveway. So
It would be, yes.
It looks like they overlap space, and that's where my
They would have to
concern
wait
was.
for their food until the boat leaves.
Till they're out of the boat business.
From a logistics standpoint, it'd be, if the food truck is leaving at night or, they're all,
Yeah.
permanently, then it would be my managerial duty to basically coordinate with whoever wants to get a boat out of there in the overlap season.
I'm unclear. Tell me about the food truck. It's gonna leave during the day?
It's got to leave
Has
at
to
night.
leave
It
every
has to
night.
leave it after it's finished,
Okay,
to go back to whatever restaurant services it, to
I got you.
stock up,
Okay,
clean up, get rid of the trash and so forth.
I see.
So it's
Okay.
a total mobile operation.
That goes back to the hours of operation, which I asked before.
And what do
We only
what do you
set it
want
up-
for that?
It depends on what he wants to do. You gonna just have lunch, or?
I would ask for hours for breakfast and coffee, breakfast sandwiches and so forth, to maybe say
Pick a
3
time.
o'clock,
You-
8 to
you-
3.
Wanna go earlier?
Then also back to the paved part of the parking lot. Is that gonna happen in the front for the food service?
So I guess the requirement is for the handicap spot to be paved, to make it compliant. The consensus was with the engineer basically pave the entire 20 by 40 area to accommodate the food truck, to be on a solid surface, as well as have the handicap spot incorporated with that as well.
So you're gonna do it 20 by 40?
Correct, yeah,
surface,
as the plan shows, yeah.
Plus the handicap spot.
Right, the handicap spot's included on that 20 by 40 area.
And you're gonna have an apron out in the front?
The apron
on
already,
28?
the apron actually, there's a paved apron, I have a picture of it if you'd like to see it. There's a paved curb cut apron existing, from the existing parking area to Route 28.
Okay. And then, are you gonna request a certain number of boat storage parking spaces?
I believe the plan shows 35 spots.
I get 24.
Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe it was
But in any event, those aren't permitted.
No, but we should know how many boats are gonna be stored there.
Okay, I agree. Okay.
But I would
Yep.
say they are if they're on the site plan, right? Because
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
approving the plan, so.
Yeah, the
It would
plan
have to be
shows 24.
Yeah, I counted them out, so it didn't mark.
Go ahead, Mary.
So that plan should be marked 24 spaces.
Okay.
So through you to Charlene again. Charlene, if there's a 40 by 20 paved area,
Yes.
does that change your comment on the surface water drainage? In the comment from engineering?
Regarding engineering, I'm not so sure. Myself, a 40 by 20 area on a relatively flat
I'm
with
just asking.
I'm not overly concerned with it.
So I guess the question is, the 40 by 20, is it gonna be 40 feet in off of Route 28, or is it gonna be 20
No,
feet?
it shows on, if you look at the plan that I forget which plan number it is.
Second.
The second
Two.
sheet.
It looks like it's set back, I'm just gonna guess on this, it looks like it's set back about 100 feet from the road, from Route
Yeah.
28.
The dimensions of that paved area will be 20 feet by 40 feet.
Okay, 20 feet wide going into the property.
In the
40
entrance.
feet.
No,
Not in the entrance, no.
Up by
It's
the truck, Joe, up here.
Oh, up in here. Yeah.
into the lot,
Yeah.
100 feet roughly.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we need that drawn on the plan.
It is. It
I
is.
don't see it.
In red.
it's, see where the food
That's
truck
the truck
is?
itself, yeah.
The food truck, and there's a note
Okay.
just to the left of it, proposed
Gotcha.
40 by 20 paved area for handicap parking and food truck.
Okay.
So it'd be like an island.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody in attendance who wishes to be heard, please come to the microphone, tell us your name, and we'd be more than glad to hear what you have to say. The microphone back there, ma'am.
Podium?
I have a question on,
Can you just tell us your name, please?
oh, yes, I'm sorry, Joan King, and we own the property at 16 Schooner Drive, which is...
Okay.
All right. What is happening to the garage business? Is that where the food truck is going to be, which is on 509?
Can the applicant
If-
respond?
If I might, it's in between the existing garage, B&B Auto, and the building on renovation now. So it's in between those properties.
Okay, I know where the building is that is being renovated, and then the garage. So is the food truck going to be on the property where the garage is?
No, ma'am.
It's going to be
In
on...
between the garage and,
B&B Automotive.
yeah, in between B&B Automotive and the property that he just recently renovated.
Okay,
There's a piece of land in there, and I think is there a boat there now?
there's boats there's boats at the BB garage, yes.
There's no...
No,
there's-
I'm not
the-
talking the BB.
No,
I
the
wish I had an
809,
aerial.
the subject property, 809 Route 28, which is the vacant lot, there's nothing on there at all right now.
Okay,
So has nothing to do with the garage or anything?
nothing to do with
No, it's-
BB Auto.
No.
Thank you very much.
My name is Ralph King. My question would be, I noticed he didn't come up with a time for this truck when he was going to operate it. And if he goes into the evening hours, is he going to put up lights?
Do you mean, Mr. King, hours of operation during the day?
Is he just going to be operating it during the day?
I don't know, we're going to ask him, but I want to get your question first.
My question is he going to operate the truck in the evening when he needs lights?
Yes, we just said that.
He said
No.
8 to 3, Mr. Chairman,
3.
8 a.m. to 3
I
p.m.
thought he did, yeah.
There's no this isn't proposed to have lights here, this is a daytime operation.
Thank
As
you.
it stands now. If things change and things materialize, and we'd have to come back to the board and ask for that.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Okay, is that?
The other
answer your
question, the other question would be the number of boats that he is permitted to place on that lot. It's not exactly a huge lot.
The plan is showing 24.
Can you answer us, somebody?
Depends on the size of the boats.
I mean,
I was gonna say, I mean, what kind of boats was he putting in here?
well, that's up for so basically, if there's, 10 40-foot boats, it really comes down to square footage at the end of the day. So, if it's 24 smaller boats that can fit in there, that's what we do. If it's gonna be 10 bigger boats, that's all we can fit, then it is what it is. It's not like a regular, vehicle space where it's, a certain size parking spot. It's gonna be basically who's looking to store the boat and if we can fit it in there or not.
My assumption was that it would look something like the lot up in Harwichport that Allen Harbor Marine stores boats on.
Correct.
Am I right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Or the old, across from Brax, where they have boat storage there during the winter as well.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah. The
old
people
ferry-
that run the ferry.
old ferry building, correct,
Yes.
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Sir, you had something further?
Just, does this board have the authority to dictate the number of boats that can be placed on that lot, or is that strictly up to him once he gets his permit?
I would say based on the number of parking spaces he's showing for boats, the board can impose a condition to say no more than 24 boats shall be stored based on the site plan. That way, if he has
It's all about size.
5
Well,
big
certainly.
boats or 10 big boats, he can have 10 big
What if
boats.
it's, yeah, I agree. What if I could, you know, what if it's 40 smaller boats that can fit 2 in a spot? It really comes down to square footage, is what it comes down to.
I'm just trying to help here, so.
I understand.
Somebody
Yeah,
else
yeah, yeah.
can come up with different,
Maybe we'll discuss it after this gentleman's done.
I've thought about it, it just, there's no rhyme or reason to it at all. It really depends on who's looking to store and what size the boat is. I mean,
I understand.
once it's full, you know.
You're in
it's-
the boat storage business.
Well,
So you take
might-
what
I
comes
might
to
be.
you and is willing to pay a fee.
True.
All right, is there anybody else? Anybody else in the audience who wishes to be heard? Sir, can you go to the microphone and tell us your name?
It's Michael Gullivan, 20 Schooner Drive, 20 Schooner Drive. A question, I don't understand about tables. What kind of tables you can put it there?
I think,
Just be picnic, right?
Picnic
yeah,
table.
picnic tables.
And where is this picnic table going to be installed there?
I assume someplace close to where the food's being served.
It's delineated on
Yeah,
the
right
plan there.
no, it's not.
No, the plan,
It was on a
the tables
previous
are not on
plan,
there.
but
It shows table area on the second, on page 2.
Oh, it
shows
does.
table area.
Yep.
Up top,
Yeah. That corner,
correct?
What am I missing?
right.
Right up
So,
here.
so if I can speak, I think really comes down to what the Board of Health would allow. If whoever would lease that spot out would want tables at all, then I think the Board of Health would dictate actually what could go there and how many spots and so forth and so on. What I've been told.
Mr. Chairman, I still don't see it.
Hang on a minute, I see it now.
It's on page 2.
Page
If
2,
Directly above the
Go to 11 o'clock from the handicap space.
it's also up on the screen big. if somebody
it
wants-
says table area up there. I had to squeeze my eyes to read it, too.
That's something the Board of Health could regulate as opposed to this board, is what the petition is suggesting.
And that area it's adjacent to the B&B automotive commercial area. And if I'm just taking a guesstimate here, looking at some other calculations, it's at least 150 feet from the RM zoning, maybe 100 feet from the RM zoning residential area.
Okay? Do you have any other questions, sir?
No, I don't understand. What is my concern? This is my property, and sometimes garbage from this property is going to my property. I don't know what kind of garbage, anything, coffee, everything. If you install.
Nobody can hear him.
If you
Yeah,
install
sir,
tables here,
you're gonna have to speak from the microphone.
if you
sorry.
install tables right behind my property, more garbage gonna go to my property.
Certainly, I don't think this man is gonna run a business, and he's representing to us that he's not gonna run a business in which there's gonna be any garbage. But that's for another story.
No, it's not story, just I wanna know where is this table gonna be there. It's easy to show, no?
Mr. Kroll, could you maybe go to the, and show him where we're looking at a plan, and it shows it on the plan we're looking at.
Table area here, here.
Yes. Okay. So you're not gonna install tables on green area over there? Down there?
That would be the area right there where the
Okay.
tables would go, and the Board of Health could say that's where they have to go.
Okay, thank you.
And if I might, the lower triangle area, that's in the residential zone, they cannot use that, and that's why I'm suggesting that they put up a split rail fence.
See it, where it says Lot 1A?
Yeah, and there's a green dash.
I see it, blue line, yeah. Mine's a blue, maybe yours is green. I'll get you.
Right here. Put a fence up.
Okay. Member of the board, go ahead.
Yeah, the engineer mentioned that in the event tables are there, it may change the number of parking spaces that are required. So,
We don't,
pardon me?
generally, there is no parking requirement for convenience seating.
Okay.
So parking is based on the total number of employees on the maximum
Thank you.
shift.
I don't know if any of the rest of you remember, but at one time, there was a similar setup to this across from Saquatucket where the medical place is now. They backed a food truck in there and they had two
From by the
tables.
Sea Grill.
Sea Grill did it.
Grill put
Right.
it in there. And some reason they don't do it anymore, but they did.
And they moved, sometimes they were across from the Chamber of Commerce, sometimes they
Oh,
were
they
down
were
by the
down by the
go-karts.
carts.
I used to come
Go-karts.
And when they were building the new complex next to Jack
Port
Conway, the Howard Port Commons, they were there the whole summer.
I remember, yeah. Okay,
They were before us every year, I believe, for a
Yep.
different special permit, in a
Yep.
different location.
any further requests or information from the public? Anybody on the board, anything further? Yes, sir, go ahead.
So my question is, do we put a time limit on the boat storage? So, say, boat could only be stored from Labor Day to Memorial Day, and then from Memorial Day to Labor Day for the food truck.
It's up to you, sir. You know, when we go to,
So I'm asking the board, what do you think about that?
So my concern is the overlap, because I think you're gonna have some overlap, probably in the spring and some overlap in the fall.
Well, they can't.
And I don't think that's a bad thing, as long as they can accommodate it on the lot, just my thoughts.
Well, there's no overlap if you do it that way.
Right, but I don't
We
know
need
that,
some overlap.
I think
Yeah, you
that,
need some
I think
lag
you,
time.
because everybody isn't gonna get their boat in for Memorial Day, or even June 15th, for that matter.
Right.
And everybody's not gonna have their boat out in time either. That's my concern for them. I mean,
Some places do that.
But the design here with the food truck in the middle of the lot is to avoid any serious logistical issues between patrons at the food truck and boats sitting passively on the side and occasionally being put on a trailer and driven out.
out of there, yeah. Sir?
Yeah, I think that certainly there's a potential conflict, as Mary indicated, that if you have the food truck operating over Memorial Day weekend, and some boaters don't want to put their boat in until the middle of June, but that sounds to me like a coordination problem that you can take care of. I don't know that we can require it.
It's a managerial issue, really, is what it comes down to.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you take it to the extreme and say he can't have a food truck until every boat is gone, it's not gonna work.
Right,
No, you may have to move a boat or two around, but that's your job.
correct, exactly.
I happen to be a member of the Allen Harbor Yacht Club, and that's an issue we have every year. We store boats in the parking lot, and getting them in and out in the appropriate time is a struggle. Yes, Mary?
so, similar to Bill's question, my question to the board is, are we comfortable with saying it can be no more than 24 boats? Or are people okay with, say, double parking boats? And so if he's got a longer parking space, if it's, could accommodate a 50-foot boat and he can get two 24s in there, I mean, that wouldn't bother me. I guess one question for the applicant, you're not planning on stacked, correct? You're just planning on flat,
Correct.
ground level? So,
And do the boats have to stay within the property lines?
With, not the property lines, within the designated area on the
Right.
plan.
Setbacks?
Do you have a question?
No,
Okay.
I said, rather than trying to require a specific number of boats, you need some flexibility there. If the boat storage stays within the limits of, as shown on drawing one, whether he has 40 boats or 20 boats, I think is not a problem.
so
It'll take
If
care
I
of
may-
itself.
just a follow-up to
Mary?
just clarify. So if on the, over where kind of the top east, like this side, the northern one, strip, if he had a 100-foot boat going over 4 of those parking spaces, I would think that's fine, going horizontally as opposed to, right? So that's all I wanted to clarify, was if we were okay that
We don't want a conflict
right,
between the two, right?
right.
Uses.
I think if I may, if you limited the boat storage to the areas, to the perimeter of the boundary in the
On the striped plan.
the stripes on the plan, it would take care of itself. And he could take up 3 spaces with one boat or not.
Right. So the basic premise here is that some of the bigger boats, this is in close proximity to Saquatucket Harbor, so some of the bigger boats that are down there, as opposed to trailering them, 10, 15 miles away to somewhere else, hopefully getting some of the bigger boats down there that can eat up the space rather quickly, as opposed to having more boats down there.
As far as I'm concerned, you're the kind of applicant we want before this board.
Thank
What you did with that property that you just finished renovating is very, very nice.
Thank you.
Sir?
With respect to setting a time limit or a calendar limit on the storage of boats, I would leave it open. It may be that some of your clients would want to keep their boat there through June and not put it in until 4th of July. I don't think there's a need to restrict that.
I would appreciate
It's a
that.
matter of right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just
Any
nobody
further
can be-
questions or comments?
Just nobody can be working on the boats, it's boat storage.
Right, but I think that's a good point by Mr. Harris. It is, boat storage is permitted as of right under the bylaw. There's no restrictions on calendar, months or anything. And he's already agreed to the 8 AM to 3 PM for the truck and the 20 feet by 40 feet on the paving. I think the storage would take care of itself, and I don't see a need to restrict time-wise on the boat storage.
Okay?
So
Go ahead.
we're gonna make him stay within the setbacks, no matter, and he can put as many boats as he wants in. And the other point was Charlene's, that nobody should be able to work on their boat in the boat storage area.
Yeah.
You
Right,
can't
no.
condition that, but it's already conditioned through zoning.
Okay.
This is strictly boat storage.
Right.
And if they do if somebody's in there doing, painting or
Bottom painting.
anything like
Well,
that.
Big issue.
I
on
don't
the
want anybody
property,
sanding the bottom
you-
paint in that
yep.
parking lot.
That cannot happen, and it will be in complete zoning violation. So, but because the
You'll have a
use-
visit from the building inspector.
Condition it.
Okay, anybody else on the board? Any further questions? Mary?
I have just a question for Charlene. So I see that we have a proposed condition for the split rail fence on the final vote
For the site
for
plan.
the site plan review
Yes.
special permit. Presumably, we don't need it in the earlier one for the.
No, for the use special permit.
For the
For their
use.
takeout, no. I would add an item 10 on conditions for the food truck. Hours of operation
Right.
shall be 8 AM to 3 PM.
And then for a condition for keeping boat storage within the perimeters delineated on the plan.
I worded that as boat storage is limited to the area of the boundaries as shown on the plan.
And I'm guessing that's a number 4 on the site plan?
I would actually make it a 1 and then change the other ones.
So,
Can I mention one thing with regard to the fence in the back? The split rail fence?
yes.
So so back in that RM zoning area, down where the green line comes down through the blue line, where it changes from CH1 to RM zoning, it's heavily foliated. So there's only a small area, as you can see on the plan, maybe 20 or 30 feet that actually you could even get a fence up. It's mostly trees and scrub brush and so forth and so on.
I think you're gonna end up dealing with the building inspector over that issue. You put in what you can put in.
Okay?
I think he's saying he doesn't want to damage the environment if he doesn't have
I
to.
understand.
I'd rather not clear
Huh?
the
Makes
whole
sense.
area just to put a fence in. I'd rather just keep it natural.
Perhaps then, a split rail fence shall be installed along the zoning district boundary line, the CM, CH1, in the cleared area.
There you go.
Okay?
How much is cleared?
I got
where
my
the green
mover of the
space
motion
is.
quickly taking notes over here so that we get it all together.
In the cleared area is shown on the plan.
Okay, any other questions from members of the board? Go ahead.
Just one question. We set a time limit on the hours of operation of the food truck. Do we need to set, or should we set calendar time limits? And if we did, I must have missed it.
Yeah, we did.
We talked about it, I don't know if we did.
You
had
talked
talked
about
about-
it, but it was never,
We had talked about Memorial Day as a start date.
Through Labor Day?
Labor
Through-
mandate.
Is Memorial Day through Labor Day?
Well, I mean, the further out we can go, the better. I mean, it's up to the board, obviously, but
other ones you've done have
Have more
been
flexibility.
Memorial Day to October 1st.
it sounds good.
Okay,
Those are some of the
got
other
that.
ones that
So,
we've done.
It's reasonable.
so I'm just asking, Memorial Day, to me, Memorial Day should be the Friday
Friday
of Memorial
before.
Day. Right,
Yep, so Friday of Memorial Day,
Can we say May
Memorial Day
15th?
weekend.
Make it easy.
To Labor Day
or we
weekend.
can May 15th.
wanna do May 15th?
That's better.
Wanna,
It's October 1st.
May 15th to October
Through
1st?
October
Yeah.
1.
yeah, stretch.
Yeah.
Puts it on either side of the...
Okay.
Okay, any further questions or comments from the board?
My only comment is, if there's a bunch of boats there, nobody with a food truck's gonna wanna park there. So they're gonna work it out amongst themselves to figure it out.
But the flexibility is nice, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Motion to close the public hearing?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and now we have a vote on the findings of fact.
All right. So, I move to adopt the following findings of fact for use special permit restaurant fast food takeout. 1, said parcel for the proposed use is in the C-H-1 zoning district. 2, the use is a permitted use by the planning board as a special permit granting authority in the C-H-1 zoning district. 3, the business operation is contained wholly within the C-H-1 district. 4, there will be no new site lighting in connection with the mobile food truck. 5, the proposed use will not adversely impact traffic flow and safety. 6, the proposed use will be compatible with surrounding land uses. 7, the mobile food truck operation is seasonal by nature. 8, the applicant must comply with all local and state food service regulations for mobile food operation. And 9, the mobile food cart will not be stored at the site when not in operation.
How about the hours of,
That's not a
That's
finding
a
of fact.
condition, not a finding.
okay. Second,
Second.
any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Is that unanimous?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I move to approve the use special permit for restaurant fast food takeout and approve with conditions a use special permit for PB 2019-33, Brian A. Langelier, trustee at all pursuant to section 325-13, section 4.32.a, and section 325-51 for a restaurant fast food takeout mobile food truck at property located at 809 Route 28, map 24, parcel W6-1 in the C-H-1 zoning district. The decision is based on the above findings and the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval pursuant to the code of the town of Harwich with the following conditions. 1, the mobile food truck must obtain a permit from the health department prior to operation. 2, the mobile food truck must return to its base of operation daily for trash removal, fresh potable water, wastewater discharge, food storage, and general cleaning. 3, water from the on-site well shall not be used for the food truck operation or connected to the food truck. 4, there shall be no table service provided to customers, takeout food only. 5, if temporary restrooms are provided, porta potties, portable hand washing stations must also be provided. 6, this special permit is specific to the locations shown on the plan. 7, no retail sales or displays are allowed outside the truck. 8, a minimum of 2 trash receptacles shall be available during the hours that the food truck is in operation. The trash receptacles shall be removed when the food truck is not in operation. 9, all signage is subject to all Town of Harwich code regulations and specifically Article 7. 10, the mobile food truck may operate from May 15th through October 1st annually. And 11, the mobile food truck may operate daily from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Any
Done.
additions or corrections?
Sorry,
You got a second?
second.
No additions or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Oh, we're
You're not
we're
done yet.
Not done yet.
Oops.
So, I move to approve
All the
the
waivers.
following waivers pursuant to section 400 as requested based on the
Excuse me.
presented by the applicant. Parking, section 325-38, applicability. Existing buildings, structures, and land uses are not subject to these off-street parking and loading requirements and may be rebuilt, changed, or repaired, but not enlarged, altered, or subject to a change in use so as to increase demand without becoming subject to these requirements. A, section 325-39, off-street parking. B, section 325-40, loading requirements. C, section 325-41, location requirements. D, section 325-42, design requirements. And E, in any portion thereof of the off-street parking as may be deemed appropriate. 2, dumpster location, section 325-41, no trash facility is proposed on site. And 3, landscaping requirements, section 325-43C, no landscaping of interior parking area is proposed.
Okay,
Or waiver of
And-
drainage.
Thank you.
what was the addition?
Drainage,
Do we have the section?
I
Don't
don't.
need it. Move to add number 4, that is waive the drainage
Calculations and map.
calculations.
Okay, second?
Listed on the plan, is that the,
That it?
Drainage calculations and map, I think, fine.
okay.
Wait, we got a couple of questions,
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. We never put on the dates.
We have to second it. Oh, you want to?
We
add
did
to
the,
motion?
we
The
did the
dates
dates
are in
on
there.
under
we
the
did the-
special permit for the
Is it
fast
on-
food.
I thought we only put the time
I
down.
did 10, number 10 was May 15th to October
We did that.
1st annually, and 11 was may operate daily from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Ready for a second?
I'm ready for
And I'll
a
second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Go ahead.
So, I would vote to move to adopt the following findings of fact for the site plan review, special permit. 1, that the property is located within the C-H-1 zoning district. 2, that the use is allowable by right. 3, no structures or buildings are proposed. 4, the access is over the existing curb cut on Route 28. 5, the waivers requested do not substantially derogate from the purpose and intent of this bylaw.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Okay, finally?
And with respect to the site plan review special permit, I would move that we approve with conditions case number PB 2019-33, Brian A. Langelier, trustee et al., for the site plan review special permit with waivers pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, Section 325-55, for the proposed storage of boats and a restaurant, fast food takeout mobile food truck at the property located at 809 Route 28, map 24, parcel W6-1, in the C-H-1 zoning district. The decision is based on the aforementioned findings of fact, the fact that the application meets the necessary requirements and criteria for approval pursuant to the Code of the Town of Harwich, and the fact that the boat storage use is permitted in the zoning district and the restaurant fast food takeout use special permit has been approved. The following conditions are imposed. 1, boat storage shall be limited to the area delineated on the plan. 2, a split rail fence shall be installed along the zoning district boundary line between R-M and C-H-1 zoning districts in the cleared area,
As shown on the plan.
as shown on the plan. 3, signage shall comply with the requirements of the code of the town of Harwich and the building department. 4, any changes to the site plan other than those resulting from Mass DOT review and approval shall be subject to further planning board review and approval. And 5, require that does this need to be recorded?
Yes, it does.
So 5, that the decision be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
I gave
Mr.
you-
Kroll, congratulations on your new status.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Very happy about my new status, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I wish you well.
That ring wasn't an accident.
Oh, and after 55 years, I've been in long enough.
No.
You wouldn't change a thing, Joe.
Bet your life I wouldn't. Okay, are we gonna do the 137 thing now?
You're down, I think that's where you are.
Okay. PB 2019-35, Route 137 Development LLC, owners David A. Clark, P.E. Clark Engineering.
Good evening, David Clark, Clark Engineering, on behalf of the applicant.
You need to speak up, David, you're so
Sorry.
soft-spoken.
David Clark, Clark Engineering on behalf of the applicant. I don't know if we want to go ahead and continue or wait for...
Board of Health has not had the opportunity, they're reviewing this evening, and the town engineer has not had the time to review. So, you know, if the board wants a presentation, or if you want to wait until the 24th, this would be continued to the 24th.
I'd look for a motion to continue the matter to September 24th.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Is there, wait, discussion?
No, I prefer just to wait for the Board of Health. There's really no engineering on the plans yet because it's a preliminary plan.
Right, but if there may be something he comes up with, and you'll get him before the 24th.
Go ahead.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Done, September 24th.
Thank you.
Okay, Sunrise Nominee Trust, Bowler Engineering, Mr. Bombassi.
Charlene, do you have a PDF of the plan, or should I have a
Yep.
blog?
Think. Light, sorry.
Good evening. For the record, Matt Bombasi with Bowler Engineering on behalf of Sunrise Nominee Trust. We're here before you for an approval not required A&R plan for the subject lot, 48 and 52 Main Street. It may look vaguely familiar from a recent permitting process. We're here on behalf of actually the landowner, not the previous applicant. The landowner would like to just adjust their lot line in between the two lots. It's lot 10, map 10, lots D41 and D42. They want to slide the lot line to the plan right, closer to the house. The lots will both meet the frontage and lot area requirements still for the zoning district, the CH1 district. The right lot will have legal frontage off of the side street there and also off of Main Street, Route 28, and then the remaining land off to the left, their plan left will have access off of Route 28 as well. Both lots front on a public way, obviously Depot Road West and Route 28. They both have the minimum frontage requirements. They can both access through those lots onto the access ways. They're not separated from the access ways. There's no wetlands or obstructions or topography. Each way obviously provides adequate access. They're public right-of-ways in use right now. And they provide access to the buildable portion of the lot, which are kind of the requirements listed within the A&R handbook that Massachusetts has issued. Happy to answer any questions.
Can you tell us, or do you know, what your client wants to do with this property once he gets access to it?
I truthfully don't. I know the previous application has been withdrawn, and we're not looking at that. The applicant's the owner. I have no idea what their future use of the lot. I'm sure they're trying to figure it out.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
curb cuts?
No curb cuts, so it's not a site plan, it's just an A&R process, so there's no
Doesn't
proposed
need a curb
buildings,
cut.
no.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
I got a question.
Go ahead, sir.
So this would reduce the size of the lot with the structure on it, and make it a non-conforming lot?
Actually, I was gonna speak to that
Can
if I had the opportunity.
All right, yeah.
Can we have Charlene's report?
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll have Charlene's report.
So for an approval not required plan, the only thing the board is allowed to actually look at is lot frontage and adequacy of access. That being said, the minimum criteria for endorsement of an A&R plan is pursuant to Mass General Law, and it is adequate frontage and adequacy of access. So both of them do have that going for them. I did, though, while not being able to sleep on Sunday night, was thinking about this, why, I don't know, but I was. And I did send an email to Matt, because one of the things under, one of my pet peeves about approval not required plans is all you can look at is frontage and access. You can't look at lot area, you can't look at setbacks. So, what I said to Matt is one thing that I realized while I couldn't sleep last night has to do with the lot area that would be created once the plan is endorsed. A commercial lot requires, or any other permitted use, such as a commercial use, does require 20,000 square feet, while a lot for a residence requires 40,000 square feet. I did say the board would have, in my opinion, would have to endorse the plan because the lot meets the frontage requirement and are on roads that provide for safe and adequate access only. And then I said, the only requirements for an A&R. However, I wanted him to be on notice that the lot area would not be in compliance, that's a typo, and that if they were to record the plan, the parcel at 52 Route 28 would not be lawful because it is a residential use, so it would not be a lawful lot. So that's something that they need to figure out if that's what they want to do, because shared elderly housing, single-family dwelling, single-family with an apartment, a two-family, require 40,000 square feet of land area. Adult entertainment, which we're hoping they're not doing, requires 50,000, and any other permitted use does require 20,000. So any commercial use only requires the 20,000, but a residential use does require 40, and there is a single-family dwelling on this parcel, so they are more than likely creating a zoning violation, which is not in your purview, but want to make sure it's on the record and the applicant and the representative are aware of that.
Okay.
Sure. And I know the
Questions, sir?
no questions. I know the most recent use of the building, I think, was before it was abandoned, was office space potentially. I know they were looking at it when they submitted to the Board of Health, so I have no idea what their future plans are. But
I don't either, but if it were to be used residentially, it can't be because of the 20,000 under current zoning.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody in the audience wish to be heard on this matter? You kind enough to introduce yourself, sir?
My name's Frank Giso. I live in Harwich, Port on Wawatesi Road. This is sort of odd. I think the sole purpose for this A&R plan is to freeze the zoning, which will be a result of the A&R endorsement for 3 years. And I see the next item on the agenda is the DCPC referral. You need to take into account that this property will now have zoning that's frozen in place for what currently exists, so that if you changed the zoning and you didn't the full route of creating DCPC in this area, then any zoning change would not affect this property for 3 years. I just would like the board to be sure they take that into account, maybe more on the next agenda item than this one, because I agree with Charlene that there's no way to withhold approval because there's a non-conforming lot that's being created as part of the A&R plan. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay? Anybody?
the-
Yes,
does
sir,
the-
go ahead.
Does the board create routinely non-conforming lots ad libitum?
Through-
mean-
If I might speak to that, through the
Thank
A&R
you.
process, you almost have no choice. Because the only criteria, and that's why I truly hate the approval not required plan process under Mass General Law. If it meets the frontage and it meets adequacy of access, it's incumbent upon you to endorse the plan. You can choose as a board not to take any action, and in which case, following the 21 days in which the board has to act, it would then be endorsed by the town clerk that no action was taken. But if you do choose to deny it, you need to indicate why it does not meet either frontage or adequacy of access. That's your only reason for denial on an approval not required plan. And that's why I hate approval not required plans. The law's gotta change on those. And it's a state law, Duncan. It's
I'm the
not
senior guy on
something-
this board, and it always bothered me, what were we doing approving, approval not required?
As long as.
You're not approving, you're endorsing.
I know the difference.
I know.
Okay, anybody else on the board have any questions or comments?
Is given.
Go
to-
ahead, sir.
Yes, given to what Mr. Giso said earlier about the timing of entertaining this subject prior to, which is a flashpoint in the entire process that this board has undergone in the last 6 months, to take the very next subject, and just by the matter of placement on an agenda, I think it's a important chronological and technical thing that I think we ought to contemplate, because if there's a 3-year, loophole here, trap door, then it will kind of vitiate the whole effort of the DCPC.
Don't have any choice.
That's not our,
If I may,
Go ahead, yes.
it's not a decision that we get to make. And the DCPC, to be honest, if people are looking at the DCPC as it relates to, because of 52, Route 28, we shouldn't be doing the DCPC. The DCPC is a
Right.
much bigger
Of course.
scope. So it's the way the law works. It's the way the zoning is set up in the state of Massachusetts. So, I understand and appreciate Mr. Gizzo's point and fully cognizant of it. And, we know that grandfathering happens. It's what happens. It's how our zoning laws are set up.
Okay, anybody else on the board have any questions or comments?
Again, the board can choose to take no action this
Understand.
evening if you want. You're not obligated. There are some communities that just do not do approval not required plans. They let them go right to the town clerk.
I understand. Okay, anybody in the audience wish to be heard in this matter? Just be kind enough to identify yourself.
Good evening, Sally Urbano from Harwich. I just have a question I'm trying to understand, and I tried to read a little bit about this. So, frontage on both those lots. They're counting 52, the access way off of Depot Road, correct? And that access already exists, but there is not access already existing for 52. Does that make any difference?
No, I might.
Thank you.
The adequacy of access is the actual frontage, not whether it physically has a road or a driveway.
Okay, thank
So
you.
it could be a completely vacant lot with absolutely no curb cuts, and it could be sliced up.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, and, excuse me. I would entertain a motion if anybody's interested in making one.
Pleasure of the board.
I'm sorry,
What's the pleasure of the board?
that's my question.
I'm not to vote on it.
Would you like
Okay.
to vote on it?
Apparently, they do not want to vote on it. Fine.
So the board's taking no action, which is well within your right to do, and that's fine. So following the appeal, and assuming, I don't know what is happening this evening, but if following the 21-day in which the board has to act, you can bring the plan to the town clerk for certification that they did not take action.
And she'll sign it at that point?
Right.
Okay.
You may want to pay attention to any conversation. I don't know what's going to happen with our next conversation regarding DCPC, but if there is a nomination that goes to the, if this board votes to make a nomination, you do need input from the town Board of Selectmen. I don't know if that can be before or after. We can ask that question to Sarah, but, so there may be a timing thing here for you and your applicant.
Yeah.
Yeah, for your client, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay. Next matter on the agenda is a continued discussion on the District of Critical Planning Concern and potential recommendations of nominations of the West Harwich Corridor to Dennisport Town Line to the Herring River as a DCPC. And by way of beginning, Mr. Chadwick, a very active member of our board, is unfortunately unable to be here this evening, and he's asked me to read a memorandum. Dear Mr. Chairman, fellow board members and town planner, I am submitting this memo as I will not be able to attend the 9/10/2019 meeting due to being off Cape. I respectfully request that this memo be read aloud in its entirety by the chairman at that meeting and entered into the record and/or minutes of the board's discussion on the matter of an application for designation of a District of Critical Planning Concern, DCPC, of the West Harwich Corridor. I fully understand that if a vote on the matter is called at that meeting, I will be unable to cast a vote due to my absence. Conceptually, I am in favor of preserving historic buildings, provided it can be done safely. The building is deemed structurally sound enough to rehabilitate and is economically feasible to do so. I am not in favor of taking any action, for example, designating a DCPC that would invoke a moratorium to further delay and avoid the issuance of a demolition permit for the Captain Baker House at Route 28 and Depot Road West. Once the demo delay bylaw period for that building has expired, which I believe is September 19, 2019. There are numerous reasons for my position, but primary among them are the life, safety, and health issues associated with the building. As many of you know, Trinity Engineering Group, David O'Neill Principal, conducted a structural building inspection and evaluation of the property in 2018 and found, quote, observed significant amounts of animal feces throughout the house, which is a serious health issue, and, quote, based on my visual observation of the building and given the age, occupancy status, and associated structural issues from the exposure to the weather and vandalism, it is my engineering opinion that the building is structurally unsound and presents a life safety issue and needs to be demolished. It is not economically feasible to make the repairs that would be required to make the building livable as reported by the Cape Cod Chronicle E-edition article dated September 12, 2018. In addition, the Harwich Fire Department submitted a letter to the Historic District/Historical Commission, HDHD, at the Commission's 9/19/18 meeting, recommending that due to life safety concern and the expected continued deterioration of the building, that a demo delay not be granted and the structure be removed post-haste. In researching the HDHC meetings of the September 19, 2019 meeting, I found the following statement, quote, Mr. Doan feels that the building is repairable and this is a demolition by neglect. The rest of the committee agreed, close quote. I do not know Mr. Doan and therefore do not know his qualifications or specifically what he did. Quote, direct observation / on-site evaluation, something else, close, in order to reach the conclusion that he feels that the building is repairable. I'm sure that many of you remember the Worcester Cold Storage Building fire 20 years ago this coming December that was accidentally started by 2 homeless individuals and killed 6 firefighters. My motivation is quite simply the life safety of anyone, firefighters, neighbors, friends, and homeless, that legally or otherwise enter that condemned, abandoned, and unsafe building. In my opinion, the only way that that risk can be mitigated is to tear down the structure and not further delay the inevitable. Someone a lot smarter than me once said, quote, "Those that do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Let's not repeat it here. And please do not think a tragedy cannot happen here. In fact, on August 12, 2019, just before the selectmen's meeting, where an application to CCC for a DCPC was under discussion, the Harwich Fire and Police Departments responded to the building for a report of a possible structure fire. Upon arrival, they found some homeless people that had broken into the building and lit a cooking fire inside the building. It was at this very meeting that Selectman Howell stated, quote, "The driving factor here is the demo delay," and Chairman Ballantyne stated, "The goal is to delay action." So as you can see, it can happen here. In fact, it has already started. Lastly, it has been my observation that for the most part, town government relies on the fire chief's recommendations on issues that fall within the area of training, knowledge, and experience. I find it more than a bit perplexing that in this particular case, the quote, "powers that be," unquote, have clearly chosen to ignore the chief's concerns and recommendations. I have a number of other relevant questions and concerns and hope that I will have the opportunity at a future board meeting to discuss them with you before any vote is taken on DCPC. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So that was a memorandum from a member of our board, Mr. Chadwick, had asked that it be made a part of the record.
What was the date of that letter, please?
Pardon?
What was the date of that letter?
It is not dated. Mary?
I just have one, just clarification. One, the HDHC did vote a demo delay after public hearing with the applicants before us last September. I'm not sure the September 19th date is the correct date. It's probably close. It was done after the full public hearing that was advertised. And I would also say that there are, the comments about demo by neglect were relevant to the testimony that was given that evening. And further, there are ways that buildings can be boarded up and made safe without also being demolished. And I would say that it is incumbent upon the owners of the property to make sure that the building is boarded up and made safe. And there's you know, those two can go hand in hand. Appreciated the fire department's comments, but in defense of the Historic Commission, I do not believe that the HDHC took those comments lightly, so.
And could you be good enough to just put on the record your position in the...
So I'm the chairperson, also the chairperson of the Historical District and Historical Commission, so.
Thank you. Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
With some experience in renovation of existing buildings, I can categorically say that there is no building that physically cannot be renovated.
Amen.
And there's far more than health and safety to be considered here. That is the character of an existing building that could well be on the National Register if it had not been deteriorated to the point that the owners have not chosen to take that route. If we have a heritage here of Captain's Row, and destroying this building would do some significant damage to that part of our heritage. And so I respectfully disagree with Mr. Chadwick that the only course of action is not to demolish the building.
He's saying the only possibility is to demolish it. You're the other side of that.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments about the DCPC and the situation down on Route 28?
Are we talking about Mr. Chadwick's letter, or are we talking about?
Talk about anything you want.
The document that was submitted, drafted by Charlene today? And I think Mr. Harris's eloquent statement about the significance of the structure being beyond a matter of flammability. That's kind of one issue. The other issue is that one issue that I come to from time to time is, who are we to say what the value is of anything that's in private hands? So, according to what Mr. Harris said, I mean, things can be done on, I think we've all probably been involved in some sort of maintenance, and these are questions of values. So, I don't know.
Okay,
If I may, I just wanted to
Sure, go
address
ahead.
I just wanted to address the comments that were directed at the Historic Commission, so. Other than that, I am certainly interested in moving forward with our discussion on the DCPC. I personally don't think it's just about the one building.
Okay.
So for me, that's a beautiful stretch that there are still there are other buildings that are in the same state as that, on that stretch, namely Bishop's Terrace, which is, was in operation not that long ago, so.
okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments about, we're into the discussion of the District of Critical Planning Concern Nomination Form.
Sarah Corjett from the Cape Cod Commission, who was at the last meeting, is also here this evening if you have any questions. Do you want me to run through what I've provided?
I would be very
to you?
appreciative. Thank you.
You all received an earlier version yesterday. Since then, I did find out from the Board of Health that there's
Excuse
a
me.
Harwich smoke shop proposed for 16 Route 28 that's currently before them. So I did add that to the list, and that's on page 12 or 7. Wow, that's not right. Anyway, so the numbering's a little screwy. Ignore the 7 on there.
I apologize, Ron.
Nope.
Where does the Howard Smoke Shop fit into this?
In the application, I'm gonna run through I just wanted to point out
Okay,
what the
all right.
differences are. So in this application, there are 17 or 18, 17 parts to this application. And the first part is who the nominating entity is, and that's on page 2. And then it goes in to describe the location of the proposed district. So essentially what I've said is there's an existing Commercial Highway 1 zoning district along Route 28 from the Dennisport Harwich Town line, also known as Division Street, to just west of the Herring River, and it has a depth of 200 feet on either side. And there's it looks better on my computer than it does up there. Item number 3, does the proposed district include land located in more than one town? No, it's all in one town. The approximate area.
That we're looking at.
Yes, what this proposal is. The approximate area of the proposed district is approximately 32 acres, based on my quick using Google Earth and making a square and scaling it off as best I could. Our GIS leaves a little bit to be desired in the town, so. Number 5 is identifying existing local regulations that relate to the purposes of the proposed district. So if you go to page 11, thank you, Duncan. I've listed within the zoning bylaw all the elements, and there were a couple of extra copies back there if people wanted to look at this. So in the zoning bylaw, I went through and highlighted all those sections of the bylaw that would relate to anything in the CH1 zoning district, because that's what this is. Also, the subdivision of land and site plan special permit regulations. Under the general bylaws, you have the historic preservation, Article 2, historically significant buildings, and then you have the wetlands protection. There is a portion, and I don't think I have that map. No, I don't. I apologize. There is a portion about it's actually about 50%, that actually falls within a flood district, floodplain district. So anything in a floodplain district, the wetlands protection has a say in that, so conservation has a say in that. Item number 6 is, are any local subdivision or development permits pending in the area? And there are 3. One is Habitat for Humanity, which is at 93 and 97 Route 28. The second is Sunrise Nominee Trust, the A&R plan that was just before you that you chose not to take action on. Actually, there's 4 things. The next is 52 Route 28, which has a demolition delay on it. In what I could find, it was issued on the September 18th, so I'm not exactly sure. To me, 1 year would be the same date.
that
So that
correct,
would
Penny?
expire on the 18th.
I would have to check. I'd have to check.
We can double check that. And then the Harwich Smoke Shop at 16, it's next to Domino's Pizza in that little plaza. At 16 Route 28 is currently before the Board of Health for what they're calling an adult smoke shop. It's a retail use under our bylaw because we don't have anything that regulates a smoke shop. Who'da thunk it? 7, are you aware of any local organizations that have jurisdiction over property within the proposed district, private conservation trusts? To my knowledge, there are no local organizations such as the Conservation Trust. Number 8, are you aware of any state, federal, or county land holdings? There are none that I am aware of, except for Route 28 itself, which is a state road. Are you aware of any technical studies or management plans proposed, ongoing, completed relating to the proposed district? If yes, please cite. In 2016, a group in West Harwich did prepare a study that was sent to the Massachusetts Historical Commission to begin the process for designation as a National Historic Registered District. Based upon that submission and a site visit that was conducted in March of 2016, MHC opined that this section of Route 28 between Herring River west to the Chase Library area meets the criteria for listing in the National Register, fulfilling criterias A and C for its historic and architectural significance. As part of the group's effort, they did create a YouTube video, which I did provide the link to that too. It's actually pretty cool if you want to take a look. Additionally, the 2011 Local Comprehensive Plan and the 2015 Community Development Strategy for the town of Harwich also identify this area for protection. Item 11, explain why you think this area warrants designation. It's a page and a half. I'm not sure if you want me to read that into the record.
Nope.
Please don't make me.
Come on.
But I will if you want me to.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to read it into the record?
Oh, no, no, no,
Okay,
no.
thank you.
Yes.
But basically, it boils down to the key things that I saw based on prior applications that were before the board and other referenced information were community design, cultural heritage, transportation, and economy. Those are the areas under the list that is provided. There are 3 criteria, and you don't have to fit it in all of them, but definitely into at least one. And in my opinion, the only one that I found that it really fit into is C1, which let me go back so I can let folks know what that means. Criteria C1 is the presence of significant natural, coastal, scientific, cultural, architectural, archaeological, historic, economic, or recreational resources or values of regional, statewide, or national significance. That to me seemed the logical one based on, the work that's already been done by the group to designate this as a, as a national registered historic space. What would be gained through additional planning or regulatory control of this area, including establishment of new regulatory controls to address any problems associated with inappropriate development in the area. This one is long too, but I'm going to kind of briefly go through this. As previously mentioned, there was a recent proposal before the planning board for an approximately 7,500 square foot building with 10 parking spaces with a requested waiver of an additional 10 spaces. This project would have resulted in the potential demolition of an old captain's house at 52 Route 28, which has received previous demolition delay approval from the HDHC. This potential development could have changed the landscape, historic, and cultural design and feel of this area. The earlier work completed as part of the pre-approval by the Mass Historical Commission was a precursor of potential protection for the integrity of this area. Since that earlier nomination, the town has had 3 different town planners making continuity difficult. The current town planner has had several conversations with interested parties and property owners in the quarter about creating an overlay district. However, the timing has always been off related to town meeting and staffing needs. Preliminary inventories have been completed to identify each property, the lot size, the use, the building setbacks, the age of the structure, floodplain applicability, etc. The DCPC process will provide the opportunity to look comprehensively at the development potential of the proposed district, at the development potential, redundancy there, under the existing zoning, and to provide more effective regulations and guidance to property owners and developers. Designation of the area as a DCPC will also provide the opportunity to incentivize appropriate development while also ensuring appropriate layout, design, and scale for desirable uses. This is an important aspect in gaining a balance between protecting community character, which includes cultural heritage and community design, and addressing realistic commercial economic needs of the community. Specifically, the town is interested in the development of the following: architectural and site design guidelines that reflect traditional Cape Cod development pattern to protect community character, including the scale and form of development, improvements to existing multifamily use bylaws, improvements to existing mixed-use bylaws, regulations that support locally owned small-scale businesses, as well as compatible public-private uses associated with blue economy. That's a new thing. Blue economy has to do with what we have here on the Cape as far as fishing, the marine science, thank you, things like that. There are a number of different things. Curb cut and traffic management policy and guidelines, improvement to existing historic bylaws, reestablishment of a West Harwich Village Center. There used to be a village center of West Harwich. Improvements to the existing sign code, improvements to existing lighting code, and I left another bullet there in case there's something else somebody else can think of. I need to get some water. Hold on. The 2011 Harwich Comprehensive Plan supports several objectives of the proposed DCPC. The comprehensive plan includes the following action items. 5.10, explore the viability of village centers along Route 28 outside of Harwich Port. Action item 5.10.1, review potential boundaries of village districts in West Harwich, South Harwich, and Saquotucket Harbor in connection with existing development patterns, economic development opportunities, and wastewater treatment costs. And the next is maintain transportation infrastructure and provide improvements as needed for a variety of transportation modes. And it does say Route 28, another heavily traveled east-west corridor serves businesses and other local uses in West Harwich, etc. The DCPC process will allow the town the opportunity to foster community support and stakeholder buy-in and to explore past recommendations and new ideas in order to achieve a cohesive vision for the community without the pressure of imminent development. Throughout the DCPC process, public hearings will provide elected officials important opportunities to get feedback on the needs of the community and how those needs may be addressed through zoning and general bylaws to foster desirable uses. Number 13, what classes or types of proposed development should be allowed to continue during the consideration of nomination for designation? Based on what I've seen other communities do, I provided the following: normal and customary repair or maintenance to single family or other residential use. 2, normal and customary repair and maintenance to duly permitted accessory structures such as sheds, garages, or accessory residential structures. 3, normal and customary repair or maintenance to non-residential structures and uses. 4, the change, alteration, or expansion of a use of any commercial, retail, or mixed-use structure where such change, alteration, or expansion is limited to the interior of the structure and will not increase or intensify the use of the structure and will not result in any change to the building footprint or any exterior components that would require site plan review pursuant to Section 325-55 of the Code of Harwich. So that would include things like parking. 5, normal and customary repair or maintenance to on-site septic systems, such as repairs or maintenance shall not increase the number of bedrooms or wastewater disposal capacity or result in an increase in impervious area. 6, normal and customary repair or maintenance to duly permitted signs. 7, installation of new signs provided they conform to Harwich sign codes. 8, any development or redevelopment where all necessary permits have been issued before, and that will be based on the date of the referral of a nomination. 9, any comprehensive permits issued which are still valid. We do have a comprehensive permit for 9397 Route 28. Actually, the units themselves are behind the commercial district, but there is one building in particular where they need, and it's a newer building, it's a ranch, that needs to have a demo to allow for the road to be installed. 7, connection to public water supply systems. 11, municipal or state projects. 12, any development that constitutes emergency work as defined under Section 24 of the Cape Cod Commission Act. I'm not going to read the rest of that. 14 is if new development control regulations will be sought, what type of uses and or development would be appropriate or inappropriate within the proposed district. What I am proposing or recommending that would be appropriate are single, two-family, and multifamily residential development on appropriate parcels, bed and breakfast, home occupations, single-family dwelling and an accessory apartment, mixed-use commercial residential development, church or other religious uses, retail sale uses developed within certain size thresholds to be determined that utilize best practices for the site, scale, and architectural design, again, to be determined, and that preserves the cultural heritage and community design character of the area. 8, compatible uses associated with blue economy. 9, restaurant. 10, nonprofit library, museum, or historical uses. Ironically, that use is currently prohibited in the CH1 zoning district. Hotel, motel, and hotel, motel, and incidental uses. Uses that I feel would be inappropriate in this area would be animal hospital, adult entertainment, car wash, commercial parking lot, dry cleaning establishment, marine use, medical clinic, motion picture establishment, indoor, outdoor display of retail sales, photographic developing lab, shows how outdated our use schedule is, recreational and amusement services, repair services, etc., vending machines, principal uses, and x-rays. 15, what regulatory controls would be instituted in the proposed district to protect the value and purposes for which the district is being nominated. Existing bylaws for this portion of the CH1 zoning district along 28 should be amended to better incentivize mixed-use development and promote designs consistent with existing architecture within the district and provide for safe curb cuts and access, improve and encourage ADA-compliant pedestrian and bicycle activity, architecture and site design guidelines for building siting and scale to enhance the improved project development and to streamline regulatory processes. As with the Harwich Center and Harwich Port Overlay District, dimensional flexibility should be incorporated, however, higher design standards should be in exchange for that flexibility. 16, what other types of incentives may be added to implement the objectives of the proposed district, planning grants, design guidelines, et cetera. I was getting towards the end where I needed to get this out, and develop architectural and site guidelines. I think that's key. And 17, list all supporting documents submitted with this application that are not already listed on the cover sheet. I don't know if there is anything else there. One thing which I thought I put in here, and, I'm gonna jump back to page 3. Are you aware of any local organizations that have jurisdiction over property within the proposed district? The Chase Library Association owns its own building, the First Baptist Church, and then Habitat for Humanity. Are you aware of any state or federal or county holdings? Mass DOT has their road. Also, and I thought it was in here, and I don't know what I did with it. Right now, we are on the transportation improvement program, short called the TIP, for renovations and upgrades to Route 28 in that corridor, but with also keeping a historic feel to the sidewalks and any lighting that would be done there. And I thought I put that in there, and I'm not sure if I did or not. Oh, you know what? It's under transportation. I didn't read it, that's why. So that
Okay,
can be found
anybody
on
have any
page
questions?
13.
Mary?
I have a couple of questions. Charlene, on page 3, number 7, does Hatch still own any property within the?
No,
They don't,
they
okay.
do not. Not
They
that
own
I'm
property,
aware
but
of.
not within
Not
the...
within that.
Within that area.
So, as a follow-up, we are talking about this, this ending right at the river? Or to the midline of the river, right to the river?
Actually, right now, it's kind of interesting. The Route 28 CH1 district actually ends before the river. I honestly would recommend, because you do have a historic building there, that it be actually the boundary of the river on the west side.
Okay.
Before we make any action, looks like I'm, Mr. Chadwick's, who was the guy who was the, you know, he pulls a chain and somebody speaks for him? Well, that's me tonight for him. I was a bit surprised to see, this is a letter or a memo from Mr. Chadwick. I was a bit surprised to see Charlene's email about a draft nomination form for West Harwich DCPC. The Board of Selectmen at their 8/12/19 meeting, see video 8/12/19 Board of Selectmen meeting starting at 2:21 and ending at 2:35, voted to refer the issue to the Planning Board for a recommendation. He has this in caps, if they so voted, to the Board of Selectmen. They specifically did not request the Planning Board to prepare a draft nomination form. This issue goes to the heart of my early request that the Planning Board take no action until such time as a written request is received by the Planning Board, which we know has never been received. And then he talks about who may nominate a proposed district. Nominating parties must schedule a pre-application conference with the commission staff, at which time submission requirements and the district nomination form will be discussed. Nominating parties may hold a public hearing prior to submitting a proposal district to the commission in order to determine the level of local support for the nomination. I think what he's saying, perhaps I'm splitting hairs, but I stated more than once at the last meeting, I think we need to proceed cautiously and very deliberately. I am not aware of anyone having a pre-application conference, and based on Charlene's email about drafting the application, it does not feel very cautious or deliberate to me. I also think the commission guidance document that suggests a public hearing prior to submitting a proposed district is a good one and should be considered either by the Planning Board or the Board of Selectmen or a joint meeting. Ultimately, whatever decision is made by the board, I firmly believe it should be done with integrity and by following all of the guidance, rules, and regulations laid out by the CCC. and the town of Harwich. In my opinion, to do otherwise would be doing a disservice to the citizens. Craig Chadwick. So essentially, I think what Mr. Chadwick is saying is, he doesn't think we're charged with a request to submit a DCPC. I think that's what he's saying. Yes, Mary?
I was at the selectmen's meeting, sitting in the back row, and they referred to us to review. If this isn't what we're supposed to do, I don't know what is. So it's for us to decide whether we're going to recommend an application back to them, or whether we're going to say we don't think we should move forward. I don't know. To me, that is exactly what the town planner's role is for the town, and exactly what our role is as the planning board. So we could choose to recommend this go forward, or choose not to go forward. But if this isn't what they meant, I don't know. I don't know what they meant. So just on the record.
If I could
Sure,
speak
go
for
ahead.
me. First of all, the nominating entity says the town of Harwich. It does not indicate whether it's this board, the Board of Selectmen, or somebody else out there. Also, at the end of the last meeting, when
Last planning board meeting.
last planning board meeting, where Sarah gave a wonderful presentation and explained very clearly what a DCPC is and what it could mean and everything else, I indicated to this board that as the town planner, I am loaned to you. I do not work for you. I work for administration. So I was continue to prepare this in that role, not on behalf of this board, but as my role as the town planner, and that is what I have done.
I understand.
If the board chooses to say, we're good with this, send it to the selectmen, that's fine. I need to keep doing my job as the town planner, and this was one of the items on my plate to do.
Can I impose on the lady from the county?
And we've had numerous conversations and discussions regarding
Sure, thank you.
nomination of a DCPC with staff.
Maybe you can help us.
Sure. Do you have a specific question for me, or?
I'm just not sure if we're going in the right direction, that's all. And you would be the person who would know that.
Sure. Well, I'll give, so I guess for the record, Sarah Korjeff, I'm on the planning staff at the Cape Cod Commission. And the decision to nominate a DCPC is really up to the town. But I can tell you that there are 3 questions that the Cape Cod Commission asks whenever there is a DCPC nomination to help them decide whether to accept it. And they relate to whether there are important resources in the area that's proposed, which you have. I think you've demonstrated there are historic resources based on Mass Historical Commission's evaluation of the area. They ask whether there a special planning effort would help to address or protect or address those issues of concern. And I think that in the draft that Charlene has prepared, and also just in the discussions that have been held previously about the area, it's pretty clear that some changes to the zoning in the area could really make a big difference in protecting the resources of concern. And the third question is whether the Cape Cod Commission staff can, and sort of the DCPC tool as a whole can help with that process. And I think the answer is yes to that. So I would argue that you would meet the sort of the 3 tests for a DCPC nomination, and now it's up to the town to vote whether you want to take that step or whether you want to address planning to protect these resources through some other means, whether it's just through discussing making zoning changes on your own without the benefit of the DCPC tool, or whether it's seeking consultant assistance to try to develop some new zoning regulations or other protections. That's really your decision to make.
I guess my question to you, and I'll get to you, my question to you is, are we the nominees of the DCPC, or does it come from the Board of Selectmen, or does it make any difference?
You, both the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board have the right to nominate a DCPC to the Cape Cod Commission. If if the planning board chooses to make the nomination, the only requirement is that you need to attach comments from the Board of Selectmen. So you have to have notified them that you are making the nomination, and you have to have some kind of letter from them of support or concern, or however they would like to comment on it.
So at some point, whatever we do with what's in front of us tonight, we need to go back to the selectmen, is what I hear you saying.
You need to solicit their comments. Yeah, so you could vote one way or the other tonight, but you would then have to follow that up with a request to the Board of Selectmen for their comments, or you could, I guess, vote that you could potentially vote your support of the nomination, but ask the selectmen if they wanted to actually be the official nominating party. I mean, it really doesn't change the outcome, who makes the nomination. And I think I stated at my the last meeting that I attended, that the strongest nominations are ones that have support from multiple town boards. So to the extent that you can solicit support from other town agencies, I think that would work in your favor.
No, it doesn't escape your attention that we're all appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I agree completely with Mary. As is any case with an application that seeks approval, how can you make a decision whether or not it has merit or not until you put all of the facts down, so we can all look at the facts? And how can we ask the Board of Selection to recommend this to the Cape Cod Commission if we don't give them all the facts? This is exactly what we should be doing. I'm not sure it's ready to go to the Board of Selectmen yet. This is a great first draft. But I have a number of comments and questions on it that I think will improve it, if I'm right. I think this is exactly what we should be doing. I'm not sure what motivates Mr. Chadwick for saying we shouldn't do anything until the Board of Selectmen tells us to do exactly what we're doing.
It's not what he's saying, but go ahead.
Kind of what he said.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I think that we've got a really good start here, and we need to continue to flesh this out, and we should look at the negatives of it as well, and determine whether or not the negatives
reasons
outweigh
not
the
to.
positives, and then act accordingly.
Yep. Anybody else on the board? Mary?
I just had some questions back on the application, if we're.
Go ahead.
If we're back to that. Charlene, I just can't see the coloration very well. On any of that, are there parcels not on 28 that are affected? Or are they all just,
Well, the district is 200 feet north and south of the
Okay.
Route 28 corridor.
so presumably all, are all?
It's everything in red.
Yeah, and I just can't see if there are any parcels that are not
Not facing.
on, right,
That
correct,
was-
that don't have frontage on 28.
Could I ask a footnote question? to
Sure.
yours? Why would we do just out of curiosity, is it more sense to do a linear metric measurement from the center line, or instead of the back boundaries of the properties? The back borderline, because then you might have situations where, for instance, the Baptist church looks as though the cemetery is half in, half out. So would we want to just, kind of like have the whole thing? I mean,
That's,
is that, or is there?
that's a conversation to have.
Or is that is there a planning, is it more important to have kind of a ribbon as the planning, or is it kind of like a jagged, spiky, irregular?
Yes and yes.
Yes and okay, right, of course.
In some communities, they want it to be that linear, because they don't want a potential commercial use going all the way back to a property line. Let's say the property goes back 500 feet, and there's two residential uses directly next to it on another road. Now, all of a sudden, they're adjacent to commercial. So oftentimes, it's used as a buffer,
Gotcha.
somewhat to
Gotcha.
separate out. 200 feet is not a very wide commercial district at all. So, you know, developments, as we've seen in the past, can be very limited to where you can put things. You know, there's nothing saying that this line would remain stagnant through the planning process over the next year. It may be decided that, well, maybe it's, you know, 50 feet off the rear of all houses that, or structures or something, you know, to create a better line. But right now, this is what we have. This is the CH1 zoning district, and this is where it falls. And thank you, Cape Cod Commission staff, for helping me make this map, because I didn't have this
One at a time.
capability.
Go ahead, Mary.
So I had a couple other follow-ups. We had commented, I think you had marine uses would be something that we would restrict. I didn't have a chance to look up what our marine use is, and I was just questioning that only because it does abut the river. So there would be two parcels, so.
Right, marine use under our bylaw, I do believe, I don't have my oh, wait a minute. Marine use usually goes to, maintenance, repair,
Okay,
but let me just double
that
check.
was a question I had on that.
Marine use, a commercial or industrial activity serving or deriving its nature from watercraft, including but not limited to boat repair or maintenance, sales and service of watercraft, motors, electronics, and other goods or services associated exclusively with watercraft. This may include dispensing of marine fuel, and then it refers to boat
Okay.
storage.
So, also with related to marine, does the harbor master have any, I don't believe he has any jurisdiction in that 400, the 200 on either side. Would he need to be listed along with waterway, with wetlands protection? I didn't know if there was
I don't think
like
so.
Chapter 91 licenses and things like that that would fall within the.
The town pier is on the other side.
Okay. Okay.
What town? Oh, yeah, there is a
there's
town.
a-
Peter.
there's a-
Oliver, yeah,
On the landing there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So number 13, one thing that's just struck me, under number 5, the normal and customary repair and maintenance of on-site septic systems. If there's a failure, it might not be a repair, it would be it could be a replacement. So the only thing I would, knowing my own situation,
Rates also.
you know, I wouldn't want to
Potential soon.
present, right, I wouldn't want to prohibit somebody from installing if
Well,
something failed, right?
I mean, if there's an existing septic system and it fails, then it's essentially a repair with a new plan, and it may be a whole new system. I think it would not, in my opinion, it would not preclude that
Okay.
if somebody's system fails, that they wouldn't be able to get a new system in
That was a
there.
question.
If somebody is, you know,
But we should address
doing
that.
normal, thankfully, there are no vacant lots along here, so that kind of is easier for us. If there was a vacant lot there and somebody wanted to build a single-family home, then we would want to say, if there's a single-family home being constructed and they need to put a septic system in, we need to put that in as
Okay.
well.
So that's kind of where my concern is coming from, or, you know, somebody's replacing old with new, sometimes new is slightly different than old.
Okay, anybody else?
But they also can't increase the number of bedrooms or the
Gotcha.
impervious surface.
Gotcha.
So that may be the restriction right there.
So final question I had, there used to be a dental office on the westerly side of the river, and I don't know whether there still is one. So on the prohibited uses, I just wanted to make sure that there isn't still a doctor's office or a dental office there that would be affecting, because I also think the x-ray can be an accessory use on a medical or dental office.
Again, these were just,
I
yeah,
totally get
I
it, it was
know-
fantastic. I mean, there was things in there that just prompted questions for me, and minor ones, really.
Okay, go ahead.
I got 3 or 4 questions, a couple of reminders. I'll save the most important one to last. You did not list gas stations as inappropriate use?
because right now they're not prohibited.
They're not, okay.
I
But,
mean, they are prohibited,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
What I did is I looked through the use schedule to see what was allowable, either by right or special permit,
Yeah,
and also what uses
yeah.
were prohibited that we may want to
And
allow in there.
could you send the link for the video? You couldn't pull it out of the Adobe, so, yeah, I tried to
Oh,
key
it
it in.
worked on mine, that's funny.
Didn't work on mine. I tried, and,
Yep.
and the main comment that I have is that the linchpin of our application is historic and cultural and architectural heritage and its value.
Right.
Would it, and this is to some extent a question to you, would identifying the Captain's Row properties, their condition, where they're located, to demonstrate that Captain's Row really does exist and it is a value to our heritage, that emphasizing that, showing photographs of it, showing where they're located, if they're in Harwich or if they span across into Dennis, would that be some documentation that would be useful in convincing the commission to accept this application?
I would say yes. I think the information that's already been prepared by Mass Historical Commission about the significance of the area is an important piece of your application. And I guess there's one other thing
I don't know if I have that, so. if
Really?
somebody
We need to
has
put it together.
I can tell you
It's
that
already put together.
it's available online through the Mass Historical Commission database. In fact, they include a map that circles all of the properties they consider to be historically significant.
Anybody else?
Another footnote, if I
Go
may?
ahead, sure, Doc.
So footnote would be, as part of supporting documentation and directly germane to what you were saying, is there is an exhibition at the Historical Society that goes through unit by unit by unit, dates, names, places, locations on the map, and then cuts through architectural style, and then horizontally through time. So it's a pretty comprehensive, and you know, I don't know if the Historical Society is interested in circulating PDFs of an exhibit that they want to get people into the building to see.
What we did do is we also went through the newspapers to find articles pertaining to this area, and we actually have the article from the newspaper on the presentation that was made. So we do have a reference to that the information does exist.
And there's a walking tour map, and then also another lecture on the captains of Captain's Row, so.
If people have stuff they want to send me, if there are links, if there's documents, that's great. I just sometimes don't have access to these things.
I just want to say to the board that I'm not prepared to vote on this until I have had an opportunity to discuss it with the chairman of the Board of Selectmen and make sure I think we're going in the same direction, but I just want to make sure that we are.
That's fair.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
Can I ask one question? Is there a requirement for public hearing from either?
There is, I believe it's a recommendation
Okay.
for a public hearing, and I would believe that the last planning board hearing plus this one, since they both were duly noticed, would qualify for that purpose.
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
the selectmen did tell us to start looking into this. I mean, I don't think it has to go back to the selectmen.
No,
Well, it would have to go back to them to get their, on the very first page, at the very bottom, municipal agencies only attach selectmen comments on the proposed nomination if the nomination is being made by the planning board, health, historic, or conservation commission.
I want to ask them some of those
It doesn't have to happen before
questions.
you vote. It's not
I don't
required.
have to go to
No,
a
no,
public
no, I
meeting and
wasn't
do it. I'll
suggesting-
Okay.
Yeah.
go talk to the chairman and say, here's what happened at our meeting.
Absolutely.
Where are we going now, you know? So I just want to make sure we're all going in the same direction. Mary?
I would think we can take one of two choices. We could either vote it and then ask them for their comments and support, or we could send it to the Board of Selectmen with our recommendations that this is the application, we think this is the important information, and this is how we think it should be submitted, and ask them to be the applicant, or be a joint applicant. I would think we could do it either way.
I'd just like to talk to them first and find out what they think they expect from us. or not. And then come back to our next meeting and we'll go from there.
I'd like to vote on it tonight because I won't be here on the next meeting.
Then we'll put it over to another meeting so that you can be here, sir.
You're
Yeah,
going
it's
well
not- this
into
is not-
October.
Pardon?
You're going well into October.
So what? That doesn't bother me. It's gonna happen. We're talking about at some point going to a town meeting.
We can vote on it tonight and then ask them for any input. I mean, this is gonna be a working,
Yeah, I would be opposed to voting on it tonight, but go ahead.
You said this goes to a town meeting?
No.
I thought
No.
that's
No,
what
no.
you just said.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
okay? Any other further comments? Mary?
as you want. as
Well,
we go.
we could vote to, your concern, I mean, I hear your concern that you don't want to vote on something if you're not sure that that's what they want us to do, but we could also take the tact of voting on this, giving this our support, and referring it back to the Board of Selectmen and let them decide whether, tell them that they have our support in this application, and let them take a vote at their next meeting, and then Mr. Stoltz would still be able to take a vote on it, and your concern, the Board of Selectmen would still have their opportunity to vote it or not.
I'm not prepared to vote on it tonight, but that's
Well, I
my
don't think
position.
we should vote on it tonight, but are you planning to go to them and say, what do you think we should do? Or say, here's what we're
Here's where we
proposing.
are.
Here's what we're proposing, is that okay with you?
When you send it to us, what did you want us to do is what I really want to ask them. And I'm not so sure they know. I mean, I've had some brief off-the-record conversation, but I'll go to them
If they
officially.
don't know what a DCPC is, it's gonna be difficult for them to answer the question.
Well, they're the ones who sent it to you.
Right,
I know that. They sent it to us in the first place.
It's not the first one we've done.
right.
That's right.
And I think the other thing is, they were as I recall from that selectmen's meeting, they were looking for alignment, which was exactly what I think what Ms. Korjeff is saying, that they want to see. So as long as we're kind of the flotilla is all going in the same direction, right?
Yep.
And it would be great to have the Historic District Commission on board with us, and, as anybody who wants to get on board with the planning, things like, seems like we're kind of pushing forward.
Okay? What's the pleasure of the board? Go ahead.
Can I ask a totally off, what's the downside of this?
I don't know that there is any.
Okay. I just, looking at both.
The only downside is some people will not like it.
Right.
Well,
The
there'll be
downside is
people
who won't like it. Right, okay.
We've
I
been-
know it's kind of a open-ended
I mean,
question.
there's always a downside to
Right.
something, I
There's
just
always a
don't know
downside.
what it,
It depends on how it affects your personal property.
That's right. Well,
How
we've
it
been
affects the
saddled
property.
with strip zoning for decades.
I know that.
This is the solution to that.
Okay.
Could I
Yes, ma'am.
respond?
Go ahead.
I want to just add to that, sort of a response to your question, that while the private property owners there may have concerns about what the DCPC would result in, because you won't know what the proposed zoning is until several months into the process, it's important to remember that any proposed zoning changes still have to get passed a town meeting, so people have an opportunity there. But also, the any proposed changes that the town goes forward with, any zoning changes, could actually be to the benefit of property owners. It will be a change, and people are always concerned about that, but the changes could be a positive one in terms of could be allowing actually more uses, or they could be encouraging economic activity or incentives for certain types of uses. It all depends on how the town moves forward.
So what should we,
well, not to throw a monkey wrench into this, but this is my document, not yours. So I can always give this to them for their packet for next Monday, to have a conversation with them without this board voting on anything.
That's what I'd like to do.
I mean,
That's what I'd
if
like
it's
to
the
do.
consensus.
'Cause I know
of the
they
board
don't.
That they're supportive of this, I guess I go back to what Mary said.
Someone needs to take the
I
first
mean,
step.
I think this is what the planning board is supposed to do.
Somebody needs to
And-
lead
Plan.
this wall.
And I do, I think this is what they asked us to do, is having sat through that meeting, they went back and forth, and they, frankly, they didn't want to step on our toes, was the impression I got from the meeting, was, you know, we have a town planner, we have a planning board, so let's have them come back to us with a recommendation. I just, I feel like
It's not the,
right, it doesn't have to be.
it doesn't,
We don't submit this document.
we don't.
You're recommending a
Recommending a
nomination, and
nomination.
here's a document you can work from.
Yes.
And they will still have an opportunity to decide to agree with us or not, if we're just referring it back to them. So, I mean,
Pleasure of the board. I said my piece.
I understand, I just, you know, I'd like to convince you to be on board with the referral back to the selectmen, just for them to get a recommendation from us, and then they can,
Oh, sure.
vote either way.
Hang on. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Cindy Williams, Executive Director of the Harwich Chamber. I sit at many of the Board of Selectmen's meetings. Actually, I think I sit at all of them without being up at that table. And it has been, as Mary has just mentioned, they're referring to you because they want your input and Charlene's knowledge. They know that Sarah was coming. As I have said on numerous occasions, we have 7 villages. This is a village, and I also refer to them all as children. They all need the same love. This village is now in the forefront of everyone looking at it and knowing what we're all trying to do for it. You guys have done a great thing tonight, and a lot of people that are here have done a great thing bringing this all forward. I think you need to just bring it back, like Charlene said, put it on their agenda, vote tonight to say, yes, here we go. We've done what you asked us to do. We did our homework. Here it is. We just need you to bless it. Because they need all of these different boards to help them make some of the decisions that they may not all have knowledge of. You guys just all did that. So that's all my piece. I usually don't get up and say anything, but I think I needed to help guide you along a little.
My concern, well, go ahead. Anybody else on the board?
I don't know, what's your concern?
My concern is that I want to make sure that the board, we and the Board of Selectmen are going in the same direction. And because in the final analysis, this is their decision.
Well, it doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't have to be.
That's not.
But if you want it to be their decision.
It can
the
be.
board-
I do. I think they are.
So we can refer back to them with a recommendation and say, this is what we think is the planning board.
That's up to the board.
And let them make a final decision, and they can choose to put it as a public hearing at their meeting too, and have public comment at their meeting before they make the decision.
Okay.
The longer we go,
Yeah.
if it's not the 9/24 meeting, if, you know, we're gonna wait for Bill to participate, then you're talking October, and then it's still gonna go back to them, and you're talking,
So,
so it's all timing, it's a
There-
long process.
There is one timing thing to keep in mind, and this came up at our last meeting, the fact that any proposed implementing regulations would have to go before town meeting, and if you only have town meeting in the spring, then you do want to think about beginning the process with enough time, or I should just say, it's preferable to begin the process with enough time to actually develop and craft new regulations in advance of when you have to put out the town meeting warrant. So that's just a
having been a
consideration.
veteran of a lot of town meetings, this is going to be a circus, a town meeting. Mrs. O'Brien.
Well, let's see, first, thanks to the board, because I see you're putting a lot of energy into trying to figure out the best way to go. My thanks to Sarah Korjoff also for coming tonight. But my concern is, there is some urgency, and we'd like to have you do whatever you can to move that ball as quickly as possible, which is why I'm voting for Mary's suggestion. I do think, you know, I attended the Board of Selectmen meetings too, and have talked with them, seemed as though we are all on the same page, and I just feel like we can't wait any longer. Doing nothing really is not gonna move the ball at all. It's not gonna work. So consider moving that ball.
I'm aware of that.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, is there a window within Cape Cod Commission, based on their meeting schedule, things like that? Or what is the length of the process, and does it matter when the submission is sent to you?
It doesn't,
Charts on the board.
yeah, it doesn't matter too much when the submission is sent to us. It would go on the schedule for the next Cape Cod Commission. It would get noticed first, it would receive the nomination, and then it would go on one of the Cape Cod Commission meetings soon after that, and they meet every 2 weeks.
Is the first step for the staff to make a recommendation to the commission?
That is, I'm not sure that I'd consider that's the first step, but there would be a staff report, so a staff evaluation of the proposed nomination would be presented at the commission meeting when they first consider whether or not to accept the nomination.
Thank you.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'm ready to vote.
I'm ready to vote.
Somebody make a motion. That's why you're a member of the board.
I'd like to make a motion that we, I'm gonna craft it so eloquently.
So, how,
I'll make a motion that we recommend that staff continue to flesh out this application based on the discussion and the comments this evening.
Okay.
Concurrently, you're going to have an informal discussions with the,
And I can live with that motion. Okay, is there a second? I'll second it. All in favor?
aye?
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
aye.
Okay, motion fails.
Okay.
All right, anything further?
So I'd like to make a recommendation that,
Recommendation or a motion?
make a motion, sorry, that we refer Charlene's draft document with any comments that we've made tonight back to the Board of Selectmen for their next meeting with a statement of support for moving forward as has been drafted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. Done.
See, I was trying to craft it.
Thanks, Alan.
Okay, well, minutes of August 27th, I think, yeah, August
Make a
20th.
motion to approve the minutes of August 27th.
Second? Somebody make a
Second.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Okay. Everybody seen the zoning board of appeals advisories? Any questions or comments? Okay.
Nothing on that.
Any briefings and reports by board members? I would just tell you that as your appointed representative to the capital outlay, we're moving. Things are happening.
I have two quick items on.
Go ahead.
As the CPC rep, we are meeting Thursday, which is our September meeting. Applications are due October 1st for this year's round of applications. We may be seeing anything that might need planning board support. We might see at a
Yeah, your
subsequent.
next meeting.
At a subsequent meeting, so I just throw that out there. And Historic Commission meets on the 18th, and we did discuss the fact that Planning Board was going to start reviewing this DCPC. So I suspect there will be a discussion at the next meeting as to whether or not the Historic Commission would submit a letter in support of it as well.
I would
So just throw that-
appreciate your continued communication from that board. Our member, who's no longer a member, and it may be a reason why he's no longer a member, was on that board, and we never got an awful lot of what was going on.
On CPC?
Yeah.
Happy to.
Thank
We,
you.
Yep,
Okay.
like I said, applications are due October 1st, so.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you, folks.